Hello, friends. Welcome to All Things Divine. I am your host, Ericka. As you know, it's March and it's Women's History Month, so it's a special month. And as you know, our community, also known as the Divine Tribe, is here so that you feel safe and secure, deeply centered and grounded within your home. Your home is also your mind, body, spirit, soul, and environments. You are welcomed, accepted, and honored in our space, and together we will heal and grow our sacred space of home. We will have a theme each month of our season, and this month our theme will be TVG, thriving, vibing, and growing. But in order to do that, we must work on our foundation of home. This month, we will do some deep soul work so that we can repair or build from scratch the foundation of our homes, our mind, body, spirit, soul, and environments. I have to be honest with you, I am really struggling with recording this. Yesterday, I received devastating news that a brother of mine passed away. I love him dearly and I'm honestly in shock. And I apologize if my energy feels a little low, but this is why. And I don't want to go too far in detail what happened. And maybe I'll save it for a later episode or not at all. But I do want to say that tomorrow is never promised, and we should live, laugh, love, and heal while we are still here. My gratitude is for my brother, my dearest friend. I am so lucky to have been in his space all of these years. I am just a lucky girl, and I know this, and I love you. Can we talk about the fact that I'm an ambassador for comfort clothing? I love this brand, and I love their slightly weighted tranquil hoodie that helps with anxiety and stress. It is so comfortable and soft, and my favorite place to wear it is in the airport because that's when I get the most anxiety. But honestly, it's my go-to hoodie. I love it so much that I got the sweats and I got it in other colors. Now let me drop a little tea. They are having a 60% off sale right now. And I want to give you a little extra off because, you're my friends and we share things. So head over to comfort.com and use my code ErickaD15 to get an additional percentage off your purchase. The details will be in the description. I did not want to pause with a commercial break, but I had to just to gather myself. And, it's just been a tough week, but I am going to continue to push through. So today we are discussing what we create. Now, sometimes it may feel that you are constantly in situations you can't get out of or constantly having fights with the same narrative. When we think of dark clouds, we think of it being gloomy because usually that means that it's a storm coming. Gloomy clouds make you want to stay in bed all day. I always say, it's gloomy outside. I just want to stay in bed all day or stay on my couch, watch movies, just have a day to myself. And if you think about it, I feel like that's a little TLC, some little tender loving care for yourself just to be still. So it's not always a bad thing, but in this particular episode, we are going to, spiritually speaking, talk about dark clouds. And when I talk about dark clouds, I am talking about emotions such as burdens, maybe secrets, confusion, and or difficult times. So it's a dark cloud that we create. Like it reminds me also of cartoons back in the day where was it Charlie Brown, I believe? Who was it? I should look that up right now, but I'm going to keep rolling with it. I really think it was Charlie Brown. So somebody let me know who it was. It was a kid who would have a dark cloud over him and he'd say, I'm sad. And it would always be raining and they'd be like, oh, this kid is coming. And he would be coming with the dark cloud of rain falling from it. And so he would give you those emotion words of, I'm sad, or I'm having a bad day. And that's what the dark cloud would represent. Now, speaking of dark clouds, have you ever heard the saying, every cloud has a silver lining? I feel that this will be your silver lining because we are going to grow on this episode, and our silver linings will be a transition, transformation, a cleansing, and a positive future because we are changing our mindsets. Now, sometimes we have things that reoccur in our lives and it creates dark clouds. It could even affect us so much to where we just think, what the hell? Or as my son would say, come on, bruh. Which, by the way, I am not your bruh. Can we not do that? But we sometimes get ourselves in repeating patterns because there is a lesson to be learned, growth needed, or hell, you might just really love that drama. Jerry, Jerry, Jerry. But hey, I've been there before, fighting with an ex that's so toxic. And then you have that toxic sex as a way to make up. Now, I feel like everyone has done that at least once in their lives. But let's get real. After you have that great makeup sex, that toxic sex, you're crying again 24 to 48 business hours later. And you're back in that same pattern with that toxic person. Now, we've all been there at some point in our lives where being in a dramatic situation was like some type of normalcy. I can personally say that I used to get so, well, I'm sorry. I was so used to having drama in my life that I just accepted it. But now that I have been able to work through things, I can honestly say that I am 1000% happy. 1000 plus infinity. That's what I like to say. Percent happy that I am no longer having panic attacks 5 times a day, being anxious or fearful and having that dramatic life. Now, sure, of course, life happens and emotions do surface, but I try as best as I can to run away from drama. Now, when we have repeating patterns, we should ask ourselves, how do I feel with this repetitive pattern? Now, what are the core emotions you feel? These emotions are called dark clouds. If you are feeling your dark cloud emotions, some examples are what I mentioned earlier with the Charlie Brown character. I'm going to say it's from Charlie Brown. But if you are feeling those dark cloud emotions, that's basically letting you know that this pattern is not the most healthy pattern that you have. It's not a pattern where you wake up every day and you may meditate just so that you can feel good. This is a common theme and common emotions that are playing out that are adding to your narrative. And you are accepting that type of emotion into your life constantly and that behavior. So, some more examples that you could feel with dark clouds. I mean, it's many things, but here are some more. You could add fear, hurt, depression, anger, or even sadness. Now, those are dark cloud words. And you should ask yourself, why do I keep repeating this pattern? Why do I feel the need to constantly put myself in a situation where I feel dark clouds? See, this is where we start to learn to set healthy boundaries. Let me give you another example. On Monday's episode, I briefly talked about a situation that was brought to my attention that I said yes to. That situation has actually been brought to me several times throughout my life. And each time that it presents itself, I say yes. Now, in the past, I would just dive straight in and become fully invested. And being invested in situations that, like that, would leave me with extreme anxiety. I was always so overwhelmed and overperforming in the circus that I created. I was angry. I felt sad. And I was even afraid at times. I had no boundaries. I'll repeat this again. I had no boundaries. So the situation presented itself again. And when I say it's presenting itself again, it's not with the same person. Like sometimes it can be, you know, hello, we just talked about that toxic ex and that makeup sex. But it's this theme has repeated itself with sometimes with the same person and then with other people throughout my life. And because of who I am and my nurturing and loving spirit, I say yes. Now, I could definitely have said no, that would be a boundary. Of course, that would be a boundary. But because of my character and my DNA and how I'm made, and I'm evaluating the situation, I said yes. So I said yes this time, but I set my boundaries up because my peace is more important. My physical, mental, and emotional health does matter, and it is important. Of course, saying to set boundaries is easier said than done. But I had to do a lot of work to get confident enough to build my boundaries, and I'm still actually working on that. So ask yourself, what is the need for me to do this? What am I seeking? What is the shadow behind my repeated actions? And when we talk about shadow, we mean all the parts we deny, hide, or reject about ourselves. Hence, Monday's episode about bruises we hide. You need to definitely check that out if you have not. So, my shadow with the repeating pattern was many things. Some of them are low self esteem, wanting to be accepted, not being my true authentic self, and just many other things. Now, in this current situation, because I have done the work, I know that I have healed those areas of my life. But like I said, I am a nurturing person, I'm a loving person, and the pattern has repeated itself, but I've healed from those things. And I know that that's just part of who I am. And who I am and being a loving and nurturing person, that is not a shadow. That is a great part of your characteristics. So that is why, because I can distinguish what's going on and where I am right now in my life, that is why I said yes, and that is why I set boundaries. So when you are honest with yourself and you identify your shadows, that is the root. And if you were a client, once we identify the root, we would go even deeper and start to pull out that root by identifying where that feeling came from. We heal, we go deep, and that's what we are doing today. Now, sometimes we unfortunately have dark clouds that are out of control. This happens because it's part of life. I currently have a dark cloud regarding something that is out of my control, the transition of my brother. And that is a dark cloud, and that cloud will repeat itself because that is life, and it's just a part of life that everyone has to experience. Other times we have dark clouds because we continue to create the narrative by putting ourselves in that situation, and it only takes constant reflection to get to the root, healing, doing the work, and recognizing why this is recurring and why we feel that we deserve to have these dark clouds repeating constantly in our lives. No, we deserve all the things that this life has to provide and more. Rainbows, fairies, and unicorn dust, as my besties and I always say. I want the rainbows, fairies, and unicorn dust. Or I will say, I want to just frolic in the forest. But we deserve to have that in life. We deserve to have those euphoric moments of love and just laughing and living and joy, just all of the things. And I want you to know, everyone who's listening right now, you deserve that and you are worthy. And I know that this is not something that will change overnight because I am raising my hand right now. It definitely did not change overnight. It took me several years. But the good thing is that I was able to see my growth throughout the time, especially with journaling. I was able to see how far I came and it was really motivating. And this is like a muscle that you have to constantly work on to get to a healthy level. So I'll share another example that I have permission to share from a client. Now, due to privacy, we will call this client Sheila. So Sheila had this repeating pattern of relationships that were really passionate and intense. She loved that, but they were all so toxic. And she always felt used and she was highly disrespected. I mean, just really disrespected. And that caused a lot of scarring with her on her heart. So this was a repeating pattern in her relationships with partners, friends, and even in family. Now, of course, the relationship with friends and family, they weren't passionate, but they were intense and chaotic. She always bent over backwards, always helping and being there for people, but felt empty and not having anyone show up for her the way that she has shown up for others. And she always felt like she was just standing there with her hands out, just wanting someone to give her affection or just really notice her. Now, Sheila's dark clouds were sadness, disappointment, anger, and another dark cloud word that she used was unworthiness. Now, I shared the story because I've seen this common theme with a lot of people, including myself at one point in my life. Hello, I'm raising my hand again. So let's recap what we've learned during this episode based on the scenario that I just mentioned. When you find yourself in repeating patterns, find the dark cloud emotions that you feel when repeating those patterns. It doesn't have to be just one word. It can be a sentence. It can be a whole paragraph of how you constantly feel. You can even journal and write down scenarios of dark cloud situations. It could be environments that you're in, people that you're around. What are the dark cloud words? So let me give you another example. At one point, I was always asked to go to a certain environment because of the person that I was with at the time. That was an environment that they would obviously go in. And so I just remember having so much anxiety having to go in this like environment. And sometimes I would even cry before because I just didn't want to go there. I didn't, but when you're with your partner, you just roll with them. And I would ask myself, like, why? Like, they can clearly tell that I'm upset. Why do I have to go to this place? I don't want to. And then I had to do some work in myself. Like, okay, my dark cloud words were that I felt uncomfortable. I have anxiety. I don't feel myself. I don't feel fully seen in this space. There's always some drama and chaos in this space, and I don't want to be involved in that. Like, you can do this with your journal. You can say, okay, let's say if Sheila had a friend named Becky, which Becky, I'm not talking about you, girl. I actually have a friend named Becky, and I actually do know a Sheila. I'm not talking about either one of them. So, but I know that my friend Sheila will be like, girl, I am not your client. And we have not talked about these situations. And Becky, girl, I'm not talking about you, but hey, girl. So let's say that Sheila had a friend named Becky, and you can journal about, if you don't even have repeating patterns with Becky, what are your dark cloud words? Well, let's say that Becky, she always got something going on. She always got chaos. She's not, and you always feel repeatedly, although there may not be patterns, there may be repeated emotions. Becky makes you feel unheard. Becky likes to embarrass you in front of people, or she says things that she's always throwing shade. So you can have, like, I guess those are repeating patterns with Becky. And it may not be, it's just the repeating words of how she makes you feel, but it may not be, well, Becky, she's always doing A, and then I'm always letting her do sample A, and this is how I feel. It could be, hey, Becky, I have repeating dark cloud words with Becky, and these are the words. So we're digging deep. Get your journals out, y'all. And once you find those words, ask yourself, what is the need for me to do this? What am I seeking? What is the shadow behind my repeated actions? That is peeling another layer and getting to the root. So, the example could be in Sheila's case, she didn't want to feel alone because she has been abandoned a lot in her life. And once you get to that root, that is when you do the work to find where those feelings of abandonment, in Sheila's case, happened. Where did it start? And that is when you start to do the work to heal that. Because once you get to the root of it and you identify that root, then that's when you heal and you pull that out. And that will change the patterns of you repeating those actions, you being in those scenarios. You'll learn how to set boundaries. This, again, is a muscle that you have to continue to work at to get to a healthy level. So thank you again, everyone, for all of your support. I didn't know if I would make it through this episode, but here I stand. Well, actually, I'm currently sitting, but you get what I'm saying. So due to me traveling to be with my family during this time, Monday's episode will be delayed, but I will see you on Monday night or Tuesday morning. So it won't be too delayed. But look for the updates on the Divine Sly Instagram. Thank you again, and remember that life is too short. Tomorrow is never promised, and we should live, laugh, love, and heal while we are all still here. Thank you, and I will see you Monday or Tuesday. Have a great weekend, everyone.